Hey everyone, I'm Captain V. Have I ever told you about the time I was detained for smuggling in Singapore? No? Watch on. Okay, this story takes place during my Asia trip with my wife about 6 or 7 years ago. And it was near the end of our trip. Um, we had recently left the Philippines. And when we left the Philippines, I had um, a beer, one beer in no, two beer in my case, in my backpack, which were totally legal. I was of legal drinking age. They were just left over. Um, they had cost me about 30 cents each in the Philippines. And I thought, oh well, we'll enjoy them once we get to Singapore, um, because that's where we're heading next. So um, we took off from the Philippines. We landed in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, the capital there. And then from there, we right away hopped on a bus to take us through Malaysia down to Singapore, yeah, overland. So that's what we did. And that bus was supposed to be great. We had arranged for that bus was going to take us right to a neighborhood in Singapore. After it crosses the border into Singapore, it was going to finish right near a hostel. We had booked a hostel that we were going to stay at that night in Singapore, and so we were feeling really good about ourselves. We had booked tickets, everything was official. It was on time. It was pretty affordable, and it was going to take us right there, and we could walk around the corner from the bus stop to our hostel for the night. But what we didn't count on was what would happen at the border. So when we flew into Malaysia, everything was good. We got onto the bus, um, and what happens at the bus at the border is that the bus pulls up to the border between Malaysia and Singapore, and there's a bit of like a customs immigration kind of no man's land, which happens all over the world, right? And we've been through multiple ones, even on this trip, like the one between China and Mongolia. We did a similar thing where the bus drops you off, all the passengers go through customs and immigration, and then they assume that things are going to go well. You get your stuff, you get back on the bus, and then it keeps going. Well, that's what was supposed to happen here, but it didn't. Instead, we got to customs and immigration at the border with Singapore, and um, we uh, we got to there, and it looked like a room like this. Now, this is actually from an airport in another part of the world, but the room was similar to this. So we walk in like this. It's a big open room there, and there were kind of two lines, typically a look up at the ceiling of like one of that you have things to declare, and one of that you do not have things to declare. And in terms of things that you wanted to declare, if you were bringing in any dangerous items or forbidden items or things like that. And I looked over and I thought, oh yeah, I guess I have those two beer. Maybe I should declare those. So I start walking over towards that lineup that you have things to declare, and they start closing it. They start closing it down temporarily and sectioning it off. And one of the security guards there says, no, 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 go over there. Everyone through this lineup. So I don't know why. Maybe there were just not too many people coming through or whatever, but they were temporarily closing down that line of that you had things to declare, of that you were bringing in items that they might want to know about. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go in the line with everybody. And so everybody went through this one other lineup. And as my giant hiking backpack goes through the conveyor belt, um, you can see that that security guard, that customs and immigration official, she looked at was looking at something in my bag, and you could see that she was using different scanners to look at it and to confirm things. And then she brought over another person, and they started talking, and I was like, oh, this isn't a good sign. And at this point already, most of the people on the bus have already gone through, and they're starting to go back onto the bus, kind of like out through the doors. And it's just like a few other people and my wife and I left. And then there's this kind of commotion, and the baggage worker there, she says like, "This is your bag, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's 2 beer." And she was like, you could see her eyes go up like, "What?" And she was so surprised by this. I was like, "Yeah, well, I mean, it was closed down over there. I have to come through here." And she was like, you know, I'm, every country has different rules about what you can bring into the country and what you cannot. Um, and like, you know, I live in Canada, and that is having 2 beer in a inside your checked baggage is it's definitely an allowable thing. So I didn't expect it to cause much of a commotion, but um, it was causing a commotion here. So she said, "Okay, wait." And then a supervisor comes over and he sits me down over. They like take my bag. I just sit down over on the side, and I still don't know what completely what's going on here, but I obviously seem to be in trouble. And at this point, I say to my wife, like, she checks in with me. I'm like, yeah, maybe like hold the bus, try to hold the bus so that they don't leave. And she goes and she tries. Um, and the bus driver was giving her quite a bit of grief, saying like, "We need to go, we need to go." And she was saying, "Well, my husband is still in there." Like, wait. So like some time goes by, some time goes by, some time goes by, and after about like 10 minutes, a a supervisor comes out from like the back rooms, and he says, "Yep, okay." Brings me on into one of the back rooms there, and I sit down at a desk with him there. He says, "Okay," and he starts flipping through this booklet, and there's like 20 pages in this booklet. He says, "Okay, so these are the charges that are being laid against you in terms of smuggling contraband items into Singapore." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! What, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, it was you have been caught smuggling alcohol, as in these 2 bottles of beer, or attempting to smuggling them into Singapore, into the country." And I was like, "Hold on here, man. Like, I see what that looks like, but," and I was trying to stay cool here, right? Because I knew I was on the clock. Like the bus is going to get going here, and then we'll be stuck in like no man's land. And so I'm like, I'm trying to stay cool, but I was, you know, letting my emotions also kind of get the better of me. I'm like, um, when I walked in here, that line was getting closed. And I was told, I was waved to go into the item, into the line of everyone else. I was trying to do the right thing. And he was like, and he eyes me up, he looks at me, he's like, "These are very serious allegations here, Captain V, and there will be consequences if it's found that you are lying." This, and I'm like, "Okay, I understand that. Yeah, but this is what happened." And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to have to check out your allegations with the floor supervisor over there of the person who you said waved you into this other lineup." And I'm like, ugh, I'm starting to realize, like, ugh, if they were not supposed to do that, they're not really going to want to admit that they did the wrong thing. But I still was hoping that this person would be honest about what had happened, because I'm sitting there now, kind of like on the verge of being arrested for smuggling, something I never ever have considered myself to do. So um, I'm like, "Okay, please do." And off he goes. So I'm hedging my bets. I'm hoping that this other guy who waved me through is going to be truthful about it. And so 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes go by, and finally he comes back and he says, "Okay, Captain V, I checked with the floor supervisor and he corroborated your story. He said that, yes, that is what happened." And I was like, "Woo, thank goodness." Oh, all right. great. And he was like, yes. And, we feel bad for this. As a token of our appreciation for your time and our apologies for causing you this grief, um, we'll even allow you to, we won't even charge you the tax on importing those two beverages into Singapore, which was like 50 cents or something like that. I was like, okay, thank you. Yeah. Um, and off I went. I was free to go. So I go outside. I'm like, yes, okay. Um, Everything is fine. I have all my things. I wasn't doing the wrong thing. I'm not charged, but I walk on out the door and it's just my wife alone with our bags. No bus. So what had happened? Well, during all that time that it took in order to figure all these things out, the bus driver on the bus was yelling at my wife to get off the bus. And other people started also getting in on it and telling her to get off the bus because they wanted to get into Singapore. And the bus driver eventually kicked her off. Like he started to pull away, to drive away with her on it and our bags and leaving me at the border. So she grabbed our bags, yelled at him, and eventually he let her out. And she at least got our bags before he took off, and she got off safely without having to jump off there at the border. So when I finally got outside, she had been waiting for a while then for me, and had to face all of that. And the bus was gone, and we were stuck with no ride into Singapore. So we had to wait for more people to arrive at the border. Then we traded. We didn't even have any Singaporean money. We had to wait for a Singaporean bus to come. We had to trade with local people there to some of the Malaysian money that we had for Singaporean money so that we could buy tickets for this new bus. But we did that, got that, waited for the new bus for an hour or two, got onto the new bus. It took us into town, but it took us way onto the opposite side of the city. Then we had to catch like the subway, the metro, underground transit across town, and then walk a ways over. And basically, instead of arriving at about 4 p.m., we arrived at about 10 p.m. Because it took us an extra 6 hours, this whole ordeal, because we missed our bus. That would have taken us right to our hostel, right around the corner from it, because they thought I was trying to smuggle in 2 bottles of beer. So be aware of what the rules are of countries that you're going into. Make sure that you know what they do and do not allow in your baggage. Um, and yeah, and don't get yourself into a bad spot here. Do the right thing at the border. All right. Hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you next time.